Oh,
Hello, everybody. I think we're back. I need confirmation.
yeah.
Are we
Hey,
back? Can you guys see us? Should I go home and cry at night? Curl
we
up
should
in a
have probably done
ball?
that. We should have done that while we were away here.
All right. I need some confirmation here before we dive back in. Ruck, Bones, anybody, Soccer Dave comes on and scares me, so I get a little nervous. Nobody wants to say anything in chat.
Nice. Yeah. Forgive me, I'm on my phone doing this because my computer doesn't really want to cooperate.
Yeah, this was one heck of a me going on. I think my mic was broken or something, and I just had to fix it. Who knows if
Yeah.
this actually. Thank God. All right. So to recap, because the save video is going to be different. Talking quarterbacks, Petty is too expensive. I like Waters, and Zach is a little less on Waters than I am. We both agree Trickett and his price are number one. We like Brewer for value here. I think Voidick could kind of be a risky play due to Virginia Tech and put all the eggs in one basket and try to stop the run. And I think, and he thinks that Brewer is the better player. I don't mind it, and C.J. Brown he likes more than Voidick as well. Getting into these running backs with all that whole, the entire injury situation for the Hokies. You see, Marshawn Williams was listed as out. You see, Shea McKenzie has been out since a couple days ago, or I'm sorry, a couple weeks ago, and even Trey Edmonds is out again. So now it's J.C. Coleman starting, but I've read on multiple blogs and one in particular that and he's back on the computer. Very
Like
nice.
that switcheroo I just pulled right there?
You're smooth, Zach. That's probably why you're married and I'm not, because you're smooth like that.
Shit.
Uh, the running back situation is this. All those guys are out. J.C. Coleman's going to start, but people think that he's not going to be the 15 to 20 carries guy. So the guy behind him would be Joel Caleb, and then maybe even Sam Rogers. Have you heard of these players? And if you have, let me hear what you think about them and what that situation you think will be.
Um, I was doing a little reading the other day on it, actually. But this is totally random, but is it Joel Caleb or is it Joel Caleb? Because Joel Caleb does not sound right to me. It doesn't flow.
You know what? I have no idea.
I don't
As a
know either.
Hokie fan, I am embarrassed, but I have no idea.
But no, they said that he's going to get his fair chance in this game. So I think he and Coleman, they don't have very many backs. So those are the only two they've got, as far as I know, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and I think even Rogers is a questionable player because of injury.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I think Caleb's is worth it. I mean, I guess Coleman's only 50, he's almost minimum price. So either one, I think, would be worth the price.
yeah, what I've read is that J.C. Coleman, although he's like 5'9", 219 pounds or something like that, he's the speed running back.
And then the other guy's the goal line guy.
Which I remember, honestly, I remember Coleman to be the speedy, jet sweep kind of running back.
Right.
And then I was really surprised by his weight. That's what threw me off because Caleb is like 6'1", 230, and they don't even consider him the goal line back. They consider Rogers this third running back who I don't see available on the slate, which is not a big deal. I wouldn't roster him really anyways as the goal line guy, but I think he's questionable or probable or something. But Coleman and Caleb for sure are guys that you can look at. I don't know if there's one that I like more than the other. I think Coleman is going to get 10 to 15 carries, and I think Caleb gets 10 to 15 carries. And I think maybe I'd lean Caleb because he's more likely to get the goal line carries. But I'm not, when you're looking at fourth and fifth running backs, there's no real clear space for that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's the running back situation in Blacksburg, which with the Hokies. Looking at some of these top price guys, I'm not a big fan of James Conner at 14K. Not with the way the Hokies plan on playing that team defensively. Are you off of Conner as well?
Uh, yeah. Like I've avoided him in all of my lineups that I've made, mainly because I think, like you said, they're going to stack the box against Connor, knowing that they're so one-dimensional, and that, yeah, make it very difficult for him. So I wouldn't play him.
Yeah, and I'm off of him. Mark Weissman, never on that guy. I think Shock Linwood is really the first guy that really pops out to me as a
Yeah,
player I like. He's gotten a bunch of carries. I think almost 30 in two straight. I think it's like 29 and 28, 14K in a high-scoring game, one that should be up. You'd have to think that Linwood would get a bunch of carries again, 20 plus easily, right?
I mean, and he's so underpriced, in my opinion. Like 14K for him is a steal.
Yeah, I think that's why I like him so much. The fact
Yeah.
that he's going to get those carries, high-scoring game, underpriced, really, he's the one that pops out to me the most. Samaje Perine looks like a good play there at 12K. He struggled, but I think you can look at the game log. I mean, at least I'm looking at the game log and saying I kind of figured he would struggle. I'm not worried about his effectiveness because he played against teams that do well against the run. And somebody was trying to say last week that Texas's run defense was awful, and I kind of, made my comments about it, and we let it be. But Perine struggled against them, and I'm really not taking that as a negative towards him, just more Texas defense being good. So I like him. I think he's underpriced really at 12K, but I wouldn't say underpriced too much because I think that, they have to account for the fact he struggled in the last couple of weeks.
Right. I agree completely.
Other than that, man, the running backs are kind of weak. Russell Shell is a guy that's a really, really good option here at 10K. And then it gets thin. You got those two Virginia Tech running backs. And then you have maybe Wendell Smallwood. Would you consider Wendell Smallwood this week at 5K?
Yeah, 5K. I mean, why not? Let me ask you a quick question. So are you bypassing Brandon Ross completely?
I kind of am, man.
Okay. I mean, he hasn't been he hasn't been impressive. I just wonder because he does catch a few passes. So
he does, but I think I'd rather just save that 10K for a receiver.
Yeah.
The thing with Iowa's run defense is typically very good. They struggled against Tevin Coleman, but honestly, who hasn't struggled with Tevin Coleman this season? And he really hasn't lit up the place. So, I can't really be confident in those Kansas State running backs, Charles Jones, Demarcus Robinson. So I'm going to steer clear of that. I think Wendell Smallwood's got some PPR to him, and Shell, the other West Virginia running back, as well. I think those are the guys you can really look at strong at those prices. So I think you have a good value here. About 6 to 7 guys I really feel confident with.
I think the play, though, would try to get, Linwood and then go for one of those Virginia Tech guys. I don't think that's a bad play at all, or even Smallwood. And then just load up on receivers.
Yeah, definitely. I think Linwood
I wouldn't be shocked if all 3 of your flexes are receivers.
Yeah, I mean, we're about to get into it right now. I think you could see about 10 guys worthy of looking at here as plays, guys that you could feel confident with. Man, some of these guys are underpriced. All right, so let's just get right into it here, and then after we get done with these receivers, we're going to give away a T-shirt here to one of the random viewers. So stay in here for the next 10 minutes, guys, if you're interested in that. So number one receiver that you're looking at here for your Fantasy Elite slates, who's it going to be?
Ooh. Man, I like the top guy, Kevin White. I mean, he's been solid. I read a mid-season All-American team today. I don't know if you saw that. CBS Sports released a All-American team, and the 2 receivers on it were Amari Cooper and Kevin White. I mean, the guy's been phenomenal.
Yeah, he's been great. I just can't believe that he's kept going as good as he has.
That's kind of how I feel like.
To be so good. It's not the fact that he's been good. It's not like he's catching 6 passes for 80 yards and a touchdown. He's going like 5 for 150 and 2 touchdowns.
No. He's going 13 for 216 touchdown.
It's stupid, man.
He's only gone. I'm sorry, he hasn't gone under 100 yards yet. His worst game, I guess, statistically, was against Towson, 10 catches, 101 yards.
Yeah.
Oh,
Towson, man.
He's got a touchdown in every game.
Very good against number 1 receivers, Zach.
Do what?
The Towson's defense has been great against number 1 receivers.
Hey, apparently so.
I I can't get mad at that at all. I think I honestly can see myself rostering 6 or 7 of these top guys. I like Goodley's price at 16K. I wrote about him in one of my articles this week, and I really think that with Petty finally showing up, he struggled against Texas, and he hasn't really been too hot, but man, he was awfully nice with Goodley last week, and I think that's another possibility for him this weekend. A little bit cheaper than White there. And then, I like the other Baylor receiver as well. Corey Coleman at 9K is pretty hard to
I think I overlooked Norwood completely. Like, just don't even – I wouldn't roster him. I would go straight to Corey Coleman.
No, I'm with you. I think maybe Norwood's a desperation play towards the end where you don't really like a guy or two, and you end with Norwood hoping that he has a big catch or two. But I think Coleman is the second guy on Baylor, and I think that's the guy you would want, obviously. Probably the underpriced guy there because he's been very, very good recently.
Yeah.
Who else are you looking at? You like Sterling Shepard more? Do you like Stefan Diggs?
Look, I like Diggs because he's consistent, that he's going to get his touches. I think I was looking at it. He's get anywhere from 5 to 7 catches a game, which is good. Sterling Shepard, you know how much I like Trevor Knight. So it's always tough for me to take Sterling Shepard. But with that said, the guy's been quite good, to say the least.
Yes.
Kansas State, man, like we talked earlier in the day. Remember how I was going on my rant about – you remember all that stuff. We won't get into that. But Kansas State, their defense is pretty darn good. Like, we saw what they did to Auburn, and everyone claims Auburn's this great team. I mean, they shut them down. It's tough for me to go anybody on Oklahoma, really.
You don't like Sterling Shepard for 12K?
For 12K, yeah, it's great. I mean, all these receivers I feel like are underpriced, all of them.
Yeah, Sterling Shepard, man, he's going through some tough. I think Texas's defense is better than what it looks, and that's a tough matchup. Yeah. I think I saw something like that really scared me, and I didn't take out Shepard out of my 2 lineups I had him in, but the guy that covered him last year didn't allow a catch to him or something like that. So last year Sterling Shepard wasn't the same, but this year he went for something like 6 catches, 60 yards, a touchdown. If that's his bad game, I think that's great for 12K. Yeah. That's his bad game, and I don't think it gets any worse. I mean, the guy had 100 yards receiving in almost every single game. He's coming off a 200-yard receiving game. A little blip in the radar is not tough. Not a bad thing at all there.
Yeah.
Katie Cannon, is that a guy you're looking at? I know that Andrew is all over Katie Cannon.
Yeah, he loves Katie Cannon. I mean, he's a good player, but here, I think I jump to Coleman. I think I go, if I'm going to take a Baylor receiver, I'm going to go Goodley, and then I'm going to go Coleman.
Okay, so what about that first Pitt receiver? If I was kind of talking to Boydick a little bit, Tyler Boyd's a really big talent. You think he can beat Kendall Fuller? Kendall Fuller struggled, a good bit down the stretch.
For 10K, almost 11K, yeah. I mean, I think he's worth the shot. I mean, all these receivers are so underpriced that you can squeeze 4 or 5 of these guys, top guys, in, because you're not, especially if you don't take Petty.
I think I was telling this to Andrew on Saturday. I'm going to try and get my coverage with some of these stud quarterbacks by using their receivers, and that's a perfect example of Petty, where he just gets priced out of the realm of using Goodley and Coleman. That's the way to go.
Because if me and you were doing a draft and you took Bryce Petty, I'm taking Goodley and Coleman, the next 2 picks, just to completely take you out.
Yeah, and you're not even anywhere near 34K.
Right.
So, I think I like Tyler Boyd, but I would be weary of him because last season Kendall Fuller gave up 1 catch for 3 yards to him. And that was when Fuller was a freshman, and obviously Boyd was as well. But I think he struggled recently, but I'd be wary of using him. Boyd, I wouldn't put him.
I don't think I'd roll Boyd. I don't think I'd roll Boyd unless all these other guys that we've talked about have already been taken, and my last pick, he's still there. I might roll the dice.
Yeah, towards the end of the draft, I'm rolling him over a guy like Curry Sexton or Levi Norwood.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Mario Alford or Tyler Boyd?
Alford.
Okay, would you rather have Stephen Diggs or Tyler Boyd?
Diggs.
Yeah, I think so too. What about Tyler Lockett at almost 18K, man? He had a huge game. I don't know what his fantasy point total was on Elite, but I was looking at him today. He had 40 fantasy points on DraftKings. Do you like Lockett against that Oklahoma defense that's given up like 900 yards in the last 3 games?
It's so tough because he's been so up and down this year.
He's up and down every game, every year, to be honest.
Well, like last year, he had a lot. I guess he had just more monster games that were more standout kind of games as opposed to this year. Um, yeah, I don't know. I haven't been sold on Lockett yet. He's a great player, great receiver, but I don't know if I'd take him. If I'm taking Kevin White, I don't think I'm taking Lockett.
Yeah, I don't think you can take both, and I think if you're going to go up that high in pricing, you go Kevin White. I think Lockett, his value comes on other sites this week as opposed to Fantasy Elite. Moving down these receivers, Manasseh Garner, I don't think you're going to be on him at all, right? Just the fact
I'm not on Boyd. I'm probably not him. So.
Yeah, there's no reason to do that. All right, what about these Virginia Tech receivers? Do you like Brewer? And his top receiver is Isaiah Ford, a guy that's been very productive this season. I like 9K. Him. You got to like him, right?
Like him.
Yeah, I think, it's funny. Virginia Tech has never really had a bunch of good receivers, and they have 2 quality receivers in Isaiah Ford, and freshman receivers. Isaiah Ford and Cam Phillips are the 2 freshmen, and then Willie Byrne is a good quality receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a late, like, if you got a shot, you need a shot in the dark, all the other 5K guys are going. Willie Byrne is considered there, but I really wouldn't reach for him, really. Are we missing anybody else in these receivers? Besides those guys, Shorts for West Virginia isn't somebody I'm really jumping on. KJ Young is the second receiver for Oklahoma, correct?
Oh, yeah.
And, you like that Kansas State defense. I just don't know how much Trevor Knight can get KJ Young the ball. Sterling Shepard can take a 5-yard catch and make it a 40-yard catch. I don't know if I don't know if KJ Young is at that point.
You have Deron Neal too. You got Deron Neal that's for Oklahoma. I forgot about him.
Okay, so you think Deron Neal is worthy at 5.5K to be drafted for value?
Whew. You know what? That's not terrible. Again, I'd probably go Virginia Tech receiver though.
So. Or Willie Byrne, or are you talking like Cam Phillips?
Yeah, Cam Phillips. I mean, because, I'd probably go Cam. Even Byrne, I think I might take over Neal.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting there. I don't really. Is there anybody else on these receiver lists? We're going to give away a T-shirt here in a second. I don't really see anybody else going through these minimum guys. Is there anybody we're missing, you think, throughout this entire... Deion Long, second receiver from Maryland. Any value there?
He's up top, though. He's at 9K.
Yeah, he's at 9K. Any value there, though, you think?
I mean, I guess it just depends on your faith in C.J. Brown.
I would actually say it depends on if you think C.J. Brown is going to get hurt. I think Caleb Rowe is a better quarterback for Deion Long than
I think
C.J.
there's value
Brown.
there. I think, he and Diggs are both going to get their share of targets. So, not bad. What did we say, 9K?
9K.
That's not bad. I mean, like I said, they're all underpriced. You're going to have good receivers in this slate.
Great receivers. And then one tight end I think is worthy of talking about, Bucky Hodges. 5.8K. I need to say the word Bucky this week.
There you go.
What do you think? Bucky Hodges at all here? Would you rather have Willie Byrne, Deron Neal, Wendell Smallwood, or Bucky Hodges?
Repeat those again.
Deron Neal.
Okay.
Wendell Smallwood.
Okay.
Willie Byrne or Bucky Hodges.
I'd probably go Smallwood.
I think I would too, man. I really do. I think he got like 17 carries last week, and if that's like any sign of relevance, plus the fact he's good for 3 to 4 catches, I think Smallwood's the way to go there. Right. Giving away a shirt here. We wanted to get to 75 viewers, but you know what? We messed up, and we blew up. Our computers just killed ourselves here. Let's give away a T-shirt. What about Squint Spattledorus. I don't know what that is, but that name right there is worthy of a shirt. If Squint, you're there, hit us up in chat and let us know. We want to give you a shirt. Lou Dogs, Adam wanted to give away a couple shirts tonight, and if you're here, you have one for the taking, man. You can choose one from the shop, and you're good to go. So let's see if he responds here. But let's get to this next action. Kind of got delayed because of that mess up. A good slate here. Not as good as that first one, but UCLA Cal is really the headliner, the fantasy plays coming from it. Texas Tech, Western Carolina plays Florida Atlantic, and then Utah plays Oregon State in a late game. So I think you got to think. I think Brett Hundley is the number one play on this whole board, correct?
Yeah,
23K is outrageous for him.
He's like that last slate. Receivers were so underpriced, and maybe that was just because they priced Petty so high that they couldn't price the receivers that high as well. So maybe that's why they were so low. But like this one, the quarterbacks are all pretty well priced.
Yeah, these seem underpriced, man.
They're underpriced, but they're not like so underpriced that you're.
Yeah, they're not like 15K.
Right.
Brett Hundley at 23K is still gonna not hurt you, but still, that's a pretty penny there. It's not like they're giving them away for free. But I think Brett Hundley, that matchup, Cal's given up like 20 touchdowns in the last 4 games. Even if you take out that outrageous game against Cepho in Colorado, they've been atrocious. So I think Hundley's got to be the number one guy there. And then to skip out a receiver, I think Jordan Payton at 12.5K is just outrageous. You have to take him at that point, right?
Yeah.
Payton's his number one guy.
Massington's good too. At 7. Yeah, Eldridge Massington.
Eldridge Massington at 7K is a good option. I just think you have to go with the obvious ones, and I think I would take Hundley number one overall there. We were talking in pre-show. Brandon Dottie, the same price as Hundley. Let's say you miss out on Hundley. Do you like Dottie for the same kind of production against Florida Atlantic, or what are your thoughts on that matchup?
I'll say what I said pre-show. I like Dottie, but I looked at Florida Atlantic, and normally I wouldn't even look, but for some reason I thought that last year they had a really good pass defense, and this year they've given up quite a few yards, but they've only given up 7 touchdowns on the year, and 2 of them were against Nebraska, and 3 of them were against Alabama in the first 2 games. So he's only given up 2 touchdowns, or the defense has only given up 2 touchdowns since.
See, this is the thing where I think you got to really look at. I think this is where CFBstats.com really comes into play.
Right.
Because I'm looking at, a lot of yardage, you said, given up. And I remember Florida Atlantic is that team you want to just give running backs against because they're just so bad against them. But I don't know if Western Kentucky, Leon Allen is that guy that could, take over. But Western Kentucky throws it. As much as they want to run it with Leon Allen, they're going to throw it 40 to 45 times.
Right.
And so I think some of those numbers are a little skewed because you look at how these teams have run against them. They have 18 touchdowns given up or rushing touchdowns given up in 6 games. That's against Nebraska, Bama, Tulsa, Wyoming, Texas San Antonio, and Florida International. So I think that's one of those things where it's like, why throw it when they can just run it? Kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think the running back in that game to take, though, is Jay Warren from Florida Atlantic.
You think other side there. You think Jay Warren's the guy.
Well, he's only 8.6K. And Western Kentucky's given up even more yards per game on the ground than Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Jay Warren, man, has been good. Western Kentucky has been brutal this year defensively. One of the worst defensive teams in college football overall. I certainly can't get mad at that play. Not at 8.6. There's some other running backs that have some deceivingly not as good as they look from the first eye there. To wrap up some quarterbacks, Davis Webb is a little underpriced against Kansas. What do you think about that?
I like him. They've been I think they've lost like 4 in a row, haven't they? They're on a downward spiral.
They're on a spiral, man. Andrew and I were chatting it up a little bit the other day. They're on a spiral down. I don't know if I will be taking Webb because I think I take one of those other 2 quarterbacks, but
right.
25K for a guy that's going to chuck it up with a bunch of good receivers. Can't get mad about that.
There, like you can't ignore that.
No. What about other quarterbacks in this? Travis Wilson's a pretty big name. I've been on him a couple times this year.
Only problem with that is that they pulled him last game for Kendall Thompson. Like 2 drives in, and they pulled him. No injury or nothing. They just pulled him. So I'm avoiding Utah's quarterback situation unless they come out and definitively say this is our guy. I'm not touching it. But I think Mannion is very 14K. I mean, that seems awful low.
Yeah, Mannion was so good last year, and now he's really kind of flamed out a little bit. But
he's average, but I mean, for 14K in this slate, that's good.
yeah, they've I typically don't like to face Utah on the at home, and they're not at home, so thankfully that's there. And Mannion's got some receivers. Victor Bolden is a guy that kind of really hasn't done a whole lot for him. What are your thoughts on Victor Bolden in general helping out Sean Mannion this week?
I mean, he's going to get the ball in many different ways. So, in elite, you get points for rushes, do you not?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like, anytime he touches the ball, he's going to get points. So, I think, now granted, it's only a tenth of a point but for each rush, but I think Bolden's definitely a guy to look at. I mean, these receivers, there's really only 3 receivers over 10K in this slate. Who are you going to spend the money on? This is pull the old Andrew line. Who are you going to spend the money on?
Yeah, I think you kind of spend the money on Leon Allen, but we can get to that in a second.
Okay.
Victor Bolden, I don't love that 13K price, but I certainly can't get mad at the fact that he's a playmaker. Sean Mannion is going to be a good play. It's not like Utah is going to be slowing people down. So looking at some of the numbers they've given up this year, they're going to obviously a big game to Washington State. UCLA had a nice 2 touchdown game yards. Idaho State had 2 passing touchdowns against them, and Fresno State had one of their better games, 283 yards and 3 touchdowns to them. So that passing attack can be pretty good for Oregon State, and I don't know who else really jumps out at you for Oregon State in terms of receivers, because I don't think it's Mullaney. He's been very disappointing, I should say.
Yeah, like they were expecting him to be like this machine, I guess, this year. I mean, I guess because it was just by default more so than anything. But he's definitely been disappointing.
Okay, so we've talked Mannion, Wilson with his risk, the fact that they've taken him out unless they kind of really say, hey, we're going to ride him out the whole game no matter what. You kind of have a little risk there at 14K. Jaquez Johnson against Western Kentucky, is that a play you're liking? A 20K, which sucks in comparison to Hundley and Dottie, but I don't really see a whole lot else there to really have. You can't really be choosy in this slate.
No, you really can't. Like, do you think Goff bounces back after last week? Do you think that game's a shootout, or do you think it's one way?
I think it's going to be more lopsided than anything.
Okay. Because I know, like last week, Washington absolutely just shut them down.
Yeah, Washington has been. I think Washington's a pretty underrated defense as well.
They've got a very good front 7, so if you can get pressure on a quarterback, it doesn't matter who it is. You know what I mean?
Just look at Washington State against Stanford. Stanford really got a lot of pressure on Connor Holiday.
Yeah,
and it showed. He didn't have his typical. And I think we all knew that wasn't going to happen, but still, he didn't do anything really in comparison.
He didn't have his typical 750-yard game.
He didn't go for 900 like he usually does.
Real quick, though, like Kendall Thompson, if he does play, he's a dual threat. So he's definitely
If they announce that Kendall Thompson's starting, I like Kendall Thompson at 14.
Oh, yeah. I think he was an Oklahoma transfer.
He might have been.
I believe that he was, and I think I read that over the summer that he was battling for the starting job, and Wilson beat him out. But they want to give him a shot.
Mike Cummings from Kansas. Any shot you roll this guy against a bad Texas Tech defense?
I mean, Texas Tech's pretty bad, but so is Kansas.
So is Kansas. They showed some signs of life in the passing game.
But with that said, though, I don't think that's terrible. But for that price, I mean, wouldn't you rather have Mannion?
Yeah, I'd rather have Mannion.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
what if would you rather have Jacquez Johnson at 20K though than another 14K guy in Cummings? Because Wilson and Thompson could be negated just by not knowing who's going to start or who's going to play a full game. So that I guess that's my point of bringing up Cummings because he got his first start. He almost threw for 300 yards against Oklahoma State, a team that actually fields a team and a defense. He had a rushing touchdown, although he ended the day with negative rushing yards.
right.
Do you think you would rather go Cummings at 14K or would you rather go Jacquez Johnson at 20K?
I think I'd roll Jacquez Johnson. I looked at the over/under in that game. It's 68.5. Western Kentucky, Florida Atlantic. So I think there's a lot of points in that game. I mean, I kind of figured that anyway, but like even Vegas is saying there's a lot of points in that game. So
Yeah, what's the spread in that one? Do you have that up?
Western Kentucky 5.5.
So that's good. That's good news then for FAU, and good news for the running back you mentioned, Jay Warren. I was going to mention a possibly sneaky running back, Corey Avery, just because of how bad Texas Tech is against the run, but he's at 10K. And people are asking me, I got a couple questions about him on Twitter, and my thinking is, if you're considering Corey Avery a Kansas running back, I think you're pushing a little too hard on like a DraftKings
I say, you know,
or whatever.
guy writes on College Fantasy Football News. He's actually been doing a majority of the writing on my site. So if you see something, it's most likely his work. He's all in on Avery, man.
He's all in on Avery this week?
Yeah. Well, he brought up a stat. Let me see if I can find it.
Bring the stat to us, please.
He said, well, let's see if I can find it. I'm scrolling through Twitter. I'll say only 2 teams haven't had a player go over 100 yards rushing against Texas Tech. Oklahoma State, who had 86, and Central Arkansas, who had 96.
And that was Desmond Rowland, and I think he still had 2 touchdowns that game.
Yeah. And so Corey Avery said his DraftKings price,
But do you think Corey Avery has the talent? Like, I know how bad that defense is against the run. I get it, 100%. I know where this. I remember seeing that tweet now that you say it. Do you think he has the talent to do that? Because he faced this. I'm looking at his game log now. Duke is a very bad run defense. Kevin Park should have a good matchup this week against Duke. Corey Avery went for 16 attempts, 87 yards against Duke. Do you think Duke's run defense is that much better than Texas Tech, or do you think?
I wouldn't.
So on Fantasy Elite, I can't roll him at 9K. I think Fantasy Elite, you just can't do that for that high of a price. I would say maybe a 6K. I was hoping he'd be around there, but the algorithm caught up to him there. What do you think? Let's move it to DraftKings or a FanDuel really quick. I don't want to go too off, when Fantasy Elite's our sponsor, but Corey Avery at a mid price, a 3K or a 4,500 on FanDuel or whatever it may be on Fantasy.
3,200 on DraftKings.
Do you feel confident rostering Corey Avery in a GPP? You've seen his stats. He's gotten double-digit carries in 5 of 6.
Like the stats that that stat I read you that Texas Tech has given up a bunch of yards.
Yeah.
But he hasn't gone over 100 in any game he's played this year.
Yeah.
So
he has a 91 and an 87-yard game. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns.
He's pretty consistent. I got to give him that.
Consistently mediocre.
Average, right.
I think that's going to be something I think people are going to start catching steam on that because I've seen that tweet. I've seen people ask me. So, people are talking about it, and I think that's something that's going to be really tough. They're going to be down early in this game. How much are they going to run the football?
Right. I just think there's a lot of good running backs up here at the top that they're not very high price that you can grab. I read something earlier. I believe what you want, I guess, but somebody wrote that they think that Devontae Booker might be the best running back in the Pac-12.
Devontae Booker, huh?
Yeah. I mean, he's good. I haven't really watched Utah, but what I've noticed, like, he breaks a lot of big plays for them.
Yeah, he's got 156 yards in the last game, 178 in the game before that. Washington State and UCLA, so a great matchup and an average matchup. 2 straight games of the TD, you know.
And Oregon State's really good against the pass. I meant to say that earlier. They'd only given up. I was reading something a couple weeks ago when they played the USC game. They went into the USC game. They were like the only team in the country that hadn't given up a passing touchdown.
Yeah, I remember tweeting about like a group of 3 or 4 at one point, and they were obviously a part of it.
Yeah, you were the one that started that little.
I started that. I feel pretty proud of that, but I did do that. Booker. So where do you rank Booker at 14K compared to guys like Allen or Perkins or Lasco even in terms of production this week?
I like Booker a lot, actually. I think that he and Perkins both. I like them both at 14K. Leon Allen, like we said earlier, like I think if we're gonna roll Dottie in that game, we're thinking they're gonna throw the ball a lot more. Allen's a great play, I think. You like him, obviously. I'll let you get to that, but I like Perkins and Booker more so than Allen.
You do. See, I don't have a problem rolling both Allen and Dottie. You know, Allen struggled in that UAB game. That was a very odd game. He got taken out or he didn't start. I don't remember exactly what happened, but that's something we're going to have to look up here in a minute. But you know, he struggled on it. But besides that, man, he's been on fire.
Right.
Almost 500 rushing yards. He's got, 3 touchdowns. He catches the ball. He's got something like 23 catches on the season, with a stupidly high number for a running back in 5 games.
Yeah. That's where his upside is more so than any of these other guys in the passing game.
And we were talking about how bad FAU is. I think 18 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it looks like, Leon Allen, they said he left with the knee injury, but he's practicing. He's supposed to have practiced yesterday. So if he's healthy, I like him probably in the 1 and 2 range in terms of running backs. And I would honestly have no problem pairing him up. And I have that same kind of feeling with Paul Perkins. Perkins is such a good running back in terms of yardage, yards per carry, but because he has Brett Hundley at quarterback, he's limited in the touchdown department. They go into like a Dak Prescott from 2013 mode, where not 2014 mode because Josh Robinson's like a Miley Cyrus wrecking ball at this point. But Paul Perkins, man, you almost need to pair him up with Hundley because he just doesn't. I don't think that he's going to get the touchdowns that you need to really.
Yeah.
That 14.
I mean, he had the game of his life against Oregon and he didn't score.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me that they go straight into Hundley mode because Hundley gets beat around so much. Why would you go into it more when you have Perkins?
Yeah, and maybe I guess maybe after what they saw against Oregon, maybe they take the pressure off Hundley a little more. Definitely
a safe play. I think that's a good against Cal. I could easily see him.
Yeah.
150 yards. He could easily break a 40-yard touchdown. If this is the week for him to score a long touchdown, this is definitely if there's a week, this is it. A bunch of running backs here though. DeAndre Washington, that's crazy high price for him, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think anybody could consider him at 14K or 14K, let alone other sites where he's low.
I don't know, man. Like, it just depends on who else. Like when you're doing your draft, like if they load up and take, Allen, Perkins, let's say they took Booker, like they just loaded up right there. Like, where are you going to go?
If they just took 3 running backs early, and you said it was what, Allen, Perkins, and Booker?
Well, let's say they took 2 of those 3 guys. I mean, are you going to go Lasco?
I would try to take the 3rd, and then I would go like your boy, J.E. Warren.
Okay, and then just load up on receiver?
I would try to see where I come from there. I didn't realize that DeAndre Washington had 29 carries, but that's out of the norm, right?
Yeah, I think
that can't be repeatable.
They were up in that game, though. They were up on West Virginia for most of that game.
You're right, and they came
West
back.
Virginia came back and beat them. Like, I think maybe he did a lot of that early. Like, I don't know.
It was 21-10 at the half.
So, but against Kansas, though, we got to remember this is against Kansas. He might get a good workload against Kansas. Just
Wow.
I take my statement back. I think you could consider rostering him this week.
I think so too. Now that I see how they used him last week, we're kind of running on the fly with this DeAndre Washington guy, but but like that's shocking to me. I really didn't even realize that 29 carries is a lot.
Yeah.
Now I see why 14K is his price tag. I still would rank him below the other guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that. I think he's the bottom tier of those top price guys. Anthony Wales.
I was just about to say. I think Allen's injury is worth monitoring because if he can't go, that's who's going. So
yeah, Anthony Wales would be the starter there.
right.
Two running back situation in Oregon State: Teron Ward, Storm Woods. Is there a guy you'd rather have?
I think I'd just the eye test of what I've watched Oregon State. Teron Ward. I like how hard he runs more so than Storm Woods. I guess that's more of like a draft analysis more so than a fantasy analysis. But again, I don't think either one of them's been just spectacular.
Yeah, and honestly, it's weird to hear because last year Storm Woods was a starter, and then Teron Ward played when he was a backup and didn't really just do much. Right now, it's kind of funny how similar their stats are.
Right.
Both have 59 carries. Ward has 343 yards. Woods has 342 yards. And Ward has 6 touchdowns to Woods' 3. I think you're right. I think you go Ward over Woods. You know, if they're going to split carries, it doesn't matter who starts. I think Woods is the starter, but I think if Ward is going to get the same amount of carries, I have no problem rolling with him more than.
I think the only. I say this, but the receptions are pretty similar too. But I think they like to use Storm Woods more in the passing game.
Storm Woods 13 catches to Ward's 11.
It's very similar, but I mean, again, I think I would still lean Ward if I'm going to take one of those guys.
All right.
Again, I'd take Jay Warren before I took either one of those guys.
Yeah, Jay Warren is the guy I would look at in that price range. Anybody lower? Any of these guys below in this 8 and lower range that you're looking at here that pop out?
I mean, I guess it just depends on how you expect the UCLA game to go. Like
let's say UCLA gets up big. Let's say they're up 4 touchdowns, end of third quarter. So you got a full quarter where UCLA is blowing them out. What do you think? Is there a guy you're looking at from UCLA there?
Jordan James, I think, is the one that would benefit the most from those carries. But again, he hasn't really done that this year. But again, they haven't really been up on a whole lot of people this year, big.
No, the teams they've been trying, supposed to be up a lot by, teams like Memphis at home, UVA, who's been surprising. They haven't done that. So you haven't really been able to tell what that situation will be like. 7K with nobody really else below him that really jumps out. I guess if you needed the value, you could go there, but you'd really have to believe in UCLA and the fact that their offense is going to blow them out.
Yeah, it's very thin at running back. I mean, usually we have a guy at 5K that you could throw out there. Like, I don't see one. Maybe Bubba Poole from Utah.
Bubba Poole, yep.
But I think this one, again, like the last slate, like you're going to have to go receiver as your flex positions here.
All right, so receivers, we've talked about Jordan Payton, probably my favorite receiver. We've talked about Victor Bolden being versatile and getting some carries to go along with some catches. I think Texas Tech receivers is going to be a huge way to, huge targets for us this week against Kansas. I think DeAndre Washington could run it 25 times, and Jakeem Grant and Bradley Marquez could get plenty of targets. Bradley Marquez kind of in a slow slump here. Do you think there's any way he breaks out against a team like Kansas who...
I mean, yeah. I think you could... I mean, even if he only had 3 catches, he might break one for 50 yards and a touchdown. I mean, I think that's definitely feasible. And he's only not even 10K, so I wouldn't... I mean, I'd take him. Or consider taking him, anyway.
Yeah, he'd be one of my later picks, but I would definitely consider taking him. Jakeem Grant is the guy, obviously, to look at for Texas Tech. Highest priced receiver on the board.
Right.
He's had some monster games, and you want to be that number 1 receiver in this offense. A good way to go, I guess, would be Jakeem Grant and Bradley Marquez if you don't want to pay up the $25K for a Davis Webb. And then we had Devin Lauderdale. Can you tell me something about Devin Lauderdale? Was there any way you knew that would happen last week where he started the game off with 2 touchdowns?
No. And did you see that they spelled his name wrong on his jersey?
They spelled his name wrong on his jersey. Pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's going to leave it that way or what, but hell, I would. The way he played in that game, I'd leave that jersey just how it is.
I'd change my name after. If I have another game like that, I'm changing it.
Lauderdale.
Sorry, Mom. I know you said Oregon State's pass defense is very good.
You said that.
I thought you said that.
You said it weeks ago, but go on.
Oh, I did say it weeks ago, and then you confused me there for a second. Come on, man, it's getting late.
Gotcha.
To mess with me. My question: Drez Anderson at 10K. What are your thoughts on him? Super boomer bust. That guy killed me 1 week in my rankings where he just didn't show up at all.
Definition of like all or nothing, boomer bust. But like, he's a great talent. Don't get me wrong. I think the quarterback uncertainty really doesn't help him at all.
No, he needs that guy that can get him the deep ball because he's not like the Sterling Shepard boomer bust.
Right.
Where it's like the 3-yard catch turning into a 90-yard catch.
He needs the 40-yard bomb in the air to go up and get it and come down with it. So yeah, man.
He needs Travis Wilson to be playing bad, and even then, it's not a great sign. At 10K, I think you could probably do a little bit better elsewhere there.
I think if you're going to take a receiver from Utah, I'm looking at either Kenneth Scott or Kalen Clay.
Kalen Clay, huh?
Yeah.
Kenneth Scott, he's the tall receiver for them, correct?
You said Scott?
Scott, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the taller type receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a big fan of that. What is this? Tell me more about this third receiver for Utah.
Kalen Clay. He's more known as a punt returner, but the last couple games he's been getting a lot of more targets than he has in the first few games. So somebody to keep your eye on. I'm assuming he's minimum priced. No, he's not. He's 7,600. Wow.
He's up there. Grant's doing his work. Western Kentucky receivers. They throw for a lot of yards. They might not score. Let's just say maybe Leon Allen scores the touchdowns. But there's going to be plenty of passes to go around here. Willie McNeil has been underperforming, but do you think at 6.6K that's very good price for him?
I mean, I think all of the receivers for Western Kentucky are very well priced. I mean, you got McNeil. You've got Taywan Taylor down there at 5K. I mean, I would consider taking all of it. Dangerfield, where's he at?
He's down there as well.
Yeah, 5.2. And I think they got another guy, Grant. I think Antoine Grant or something like that.
Antoine Grant, 7.7K. So we're looking at Grant, Dangerfield, McNeil, and that fourth one, Taylor. Which one's number one? Which one's number two? Isn't it Taylor then McNeil in terms of production? You think?
Ooh, that's tough. It really is because I think they spread it around so much that. I mean, I think you're looking at like 5 catches from all of them. Like it's possible that they all get roughly the same amount of looks.
Yeah, but with all those pass attempts going to be there, I think at that low price, I think like you said, I think you consider all of them. Florida Atlantic receiver, we talked about how it's a big point total, big spread. What receivers there are we looking at for?
Lucky Whitehead.
Lucky Whitehead.
I think we mentioned him on a show before. Because for some reason we had Florida Atlantic on a show before.
We did. We had it when they played that Florida International game.
And no Boise State this week, but we won't get to that.
We won't get to that before. We don't want to get anybody pissed. We don't want to get your what is that called? A fat head pissed off in the background.
Yeah, actually he's ripping up back there. That's probably not good. The moisture, humidity's killing him.
All right, one thing to say. I'm intrigued by if Nick Harwell is going to ever have some value this year because of maybe the new quarterback helps him out. not something I would look at this week, but something to keep an eye on for future weeks, just for fun, really, just to see if he'll ever produce anything for us. We have a
Tony
question.
Pearson is the guy for Kansas I would keep my eye on.
Tony Pearson.
He's a wide receiver. He used to be a running back.
I remember that. He was that weird running back listed, but he always got like 8 catches kind of thing.
Yeah, but he gets carries too. So like I think they just use him however they want. Like just put him wherever they need a play, they put him in the backfield or put him in the slot, whatever.
Okay, give me one. We got a question. Give me a player or two maybe that you're looking at this with this slate that is a bigger name that you would fade, would try to avoid, that maybe people are on a whole bunch. Is there anybody in particular?
I guess Anderson.
I think definitely Anderson, yeah. 10K, 4th highest receiver on the board. And I want to say, if I was to look at somebody maybe, bigger name, someone, I think, as much as I think Paul Perkins is a lock for 150 yards, it could be 150 yards and that's it. If you want to not play Perkins, if you want a reason to avoid one of those top guys, I think Perkins' inability to find the end zone is enough for me to say, you know what, I got no problem fading him this weekend. Let's see here. Any tight ends? Tight end Mitchell Henry is pretty high price for a tight end. Is there any shot he provides value for the Hilltoppers?
I mean, I guess there's a shot, but
Zach, you have to give me a decisive one way or the other here. Give me your Mississippi State sucks right now. You're so passionate about that. Give me something here.
No, that's tough. That's tough. I don't know if I would roster him, but I think he may have value in this slate. He's only 9K. I mean, you basically are comparing him to those guys that, like Nick Harwell's at 95. I mean, I would take him over Nick Harwell for sure. I'd take him. Honestly, I think I might take him over Anderson this week.
Yeah, I think I would take him over Anderson. I don't ever roster tight ends, and I think I'd roster him over Anderson. So I think there's that. Is there anything you wanted to chat about regular college football-wise? I got to go after this and research DeAndre Washington more and Corey Avery, to be honest, prices across the board, because I think I might have just foolishly gotten myself into DeAndre Washington.
You were writing him off. We were both writing him off. I'm not just going to say you were, but
we both were off that train.
Oh, we got to talk about Jimmy Mundine.
Jim May, I love that name, man. I could never get enough.
I think
he had a big game last week. He had like 6 catches last week.
I think if you're going to look at Henry, I think you got to look at Mundine, man.
I don't know, man. As much as I love that guy's name is awesome. I think wait and see. Give me a Nick Harwell wait and see on this guy. At least Henry plays in an offense that's good.
And they're going to score some points.
Some points here. Let's see. Anything else to chat about?
I won't go into my rant that I had this morning.
No. I got all in a tiffy about Mississippi State, how they don't deserve to be number 1.
No, I didn't say they didn't deserve to be number 1. I didn't say that. I think they do deserve to be number 1 as the current season sits. But I think we have a lot of football that we need to see before we just proclaim them to be like just this great team.
So who do you think at the end of the year will be number 1 then? At the end of the regular season will be number 1.
That's tough because I could see every team in the SEC having at least maybe 1, if not 2 losses.
Yeah.
Okay, could you honestly, if Mississippi State went into Alabama and lost, would you really be shocked? I mean, Alabama hasn't played well, but would you be shocked that Alabama beat them?
No, I wouldn't be shocked. On the road.
And Ole Miss plays Auburn. I could see Auburn beating Ole Miss. I mean, there's so many of those games that they're going to beat up each other. I think this is the year, that we're going to see the SEC West kill itself.
Yeah, and it's not like, Mississippi State plays Ole Miss too, so.
Right. They're going to have to, one of those teams is coming away with a loss.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by it. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Well, I had a coworker tell me that he thinks 3 SEC teams could make it to the playoff. That's not possible, right?
I guess it's possible, but like I said, you're going to have Mississippi State go in and beat Alabama. They're going to have to beat, or they could lose one game. Like I don't think a two-loss SEC team's going.
But here's my situation, and I think this is a really odd one because it brings in the whole SEC champion fact, and that is very scary. The whole SEC, if you win it, you deserve it. If Georgia loses, let's say Georgia loses, 2 SEC East games or whatever, and gets in with a 9-3 record,
And
okay,
they
to the
win
championship, and then Ole Miss goes 12-0 and goes into the SEC championship game and loses. Mississippi State's only loss is that old Egg Bowl game.
right.
They're 11-1 going into postseason with just 12 games. Do you conceivably put Ole Miss, Mississippi State in, and not Georgia in the playoff?
Like say that the SEC championship doesn't matter, kind of thing.
Like Georgia beats Ole Miss, who then becomes 12-1. So you have a 12-1 Ole Miss, 11-1 Mississippi State, and a 10-3 Georgia.
I don't think you can put Georgia in there.
I don't think so either. And my coworker was saying,
hold on. Before you go there, we're assuming Georgia's going to be in that game.
well, Georgia at like 3 losses. That's conceivable, couldn't it?
I'm not on this bandwagon yet.
Well, I'm just saying hypothetically. I think Georgia's a very tough situation.
I would love to see Kentucky pull this out, go to the title game.
Oh my God! How many losses does Kentucky have right now? One.
They play at LSU this week.
What are the chances Kentucky goes 11-1 into the SEC championship game?
I think slim, and I think they lose this week. But I'd love to see.
I'd love to see it happen, though.
Yeah, they're a 10-point underdog at LSU. So not that matters. They were an underdog at South Carolina and put it to
home
them.
Against South Carolina and lost.
Do what?
They were home against South Carolina and lost.
No, they beat South Carolina.
Oh, it won. I'm sorry, home at South Carolina and won. That's my point. Was that they were at home and
they were at home. Okay. Either way, they've been underdogs almost every game, so they've impressed me, man. I guess I need to see more from them too, but I expected them to win 4 games.
Yeah, I expected them to win as many games as Tennessee.
Yeah.
Right now, Tennessee is good old
Missouri, after what they did last week, that was disgraceful. That was terrible. What happened to them?
I liked. If you would have said, hey, Missouri's run defense is going to allow a 3.5 yard per carry and 50 rushes by Georgia, and they're going to get beat by almost 30, you would say you're crazy. This is
their
crazy.
offense gave the ball up 6 times?
Something like that. Just brutal. But anyways, that's for another day.
To answer your question, though, I guess I don't think a 10-3 Georgia would make it. I still think that Mississippi State would, but I think you'd have to put Ole Miss in as well if you're going to put Mississippi State in.
But I don't think you could put 3 SEC teams in because
I don't think so either.
Everybody else, you're telling me Florida State ain't going to go perfect. You're telling me Oregon or UCLA, not UCLA.
Let me ask you this
in the West.
There's a guy at work. He's from Columbus, and you probably see where I'm going with this.
I'm seeing where this is going.
But do you think the selection committee takes into account Ohio State's situation with their quarterback? J.T. Barrett got kind of thrown in the week before the game, the opening week, and he's gotten better week after week. If they run the table and they beat Michigan State, are they not in the discussion?
They have to be in the discussion. I don't think the playoff committee sees it as they had their backup and they lost to Virginia Tech.
Well, why not? Isn't that the whole point of this human element, though?
You could only look at it to the point of they improved, not the fact that I'm going to throw this game away because it was their backup.
No, I'm not saying throw it away. But I think that when they're judging these teams, they're saying, okay, this team in late August, early September is completely different now in November, December. they're a high caliber team that is worthy of that spot. Like, I'm not saying I would pick them. I just think that the selection committee is going to take that into account. Like, I don't know. Like,
I'm
do you
with you.
you think Ohio State beats Virginia Tech with Braxton Miller?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what they're going to kind of look at. It's like, well, he kind of got thrown into that game. Like, he'd had a week to of playing time before that. I mean, I don't know. I think that's the whole point of this human element, though. They're going to take things like that the computers were not going to take into account. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the human element will definitely help this JT Barrett situation, but let's say our goodbyes. We've done too much BSing about this. All fun talk. This is going to be great to talk about when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Final weeks of the season, but hope you guys enjoyed it. Fantasy Elite slates really are some great slates. You're telling me beforehand that these games like the Cal UCLA, West Virginia Baylor, those would have to be in it for me, whether it be today's slate or the slate starting tomorrow or the ones starting on Saturday. Those need to be in the games, and they are. They start tomorrow, so make sure you are and joining in. I'm probably going to join in a draft or two tonight after the show right now. So hit me up on the lobby if you want to do that. But otherwise, guys, thank you for bearing with us. We had those technical difficulties. We appreciate you staying with us. And we'll see you probably Friday nights. All right, guys?